Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you guys are doing well. I know most of you know about the thing I'm going to bring up to you right now. And that, sorry, guys, my camera went out for a second. Most of you know about the Ahmaud Arbery case, and you know that the defendants were found guilty of um, of killing Ahmaud, which they should have been found guilty. Some of you are happy. Give me a yes or no if you've been following this case. Also, let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. I just hit the wrong button. I want to make sure I'm coming through okay. Can you hear me all right? Let me know if you can hear me. Yeah, and so the case is over. Justice was served. It's a good thing. I couldn't see any reason why these yahoos should have gotten away with what they did. It didn't make any sense. There wasn't any information that, in my view, would justify a not guilty verdict. And I don't care much about these guys. I think that they learned the hard way that you can't just sort of take the law in your own hands and do whatever you want to do, and all that's fine and good. So let me throw this out there, Sonia and Sapphire. Give me a yes if we can agree that this case, that justice was served here, that the guilty verdict was appropriate, and that they should get as much time as required for what they did. Right. So I agree. That's where I stand. That's my position on it. Now, why am I bringing this up? So you saw this case kind of happen. Y'all know me. I read between the lines. I go a little bit deeper, right? And so my heart definitely went out to Ahmaud Arbery and his family. That that this case was one that was handled appropriately. And I wish him well in the afterlife. So here's where I want to go with this. You guys know me. I don't see things at level one. I see things at level two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. And so I'm watching the Ahmaud Arbery case happen, and I'm seeing all the protesters, and I'm seeing everybody sort of expressing legitimate and righteous indignation over the case. I saw the people outside, screaming justice for Ahmaud. I saw Ben Crump. Ben Crump showed up. Ben Crump is always in the cut. He's gonna get his check. Y'all know what it is. He's sitting next to Al Sharpton, so Ben Crump is there, about to get paid, for the family and everything else, and that's fine. I want to see him make money. I'm happy for him. But here's where I can't necessarily go in the same direction as everybody else. If you ask me, Boyce, were you having a good day before the Ahmaud Arbery verdict? I'd have said yeah. If you said, Boyce, are you having a good day after the Ahmaud Arbery verdict? I would have said yeah. If the verdict had been not guilty and somebody said, are you still having a good day? I would have said, yeah, I am. And the reason is because I'm having a hard time figuring out how these ambulance chasing civil rights superstars and the one-off cases are really changing the trajectory for the black community. Now, I'm not in any way saying anything about this particular case. I mean, shout out to Ahmaud. These hillbillies deserve to go to jail, no question about it. It was a completely inappropriate situation. The case was what it was. But and I'm not I don't want to be a hater on Ben Crump. I think, or whoever. But the thing is, if you go back 40 years, you have always had the same situation emerge in the where black people get riled up over a case, and the verdict is either not guilty and everyone's outraged, or it's guilty and everyone feels relieved, and nothing changes. Nothing changes. I mean, nothing changed. Let me tell you. Let me explain to you where this is coming from. Some people ain't gonna get it. Some people are gonna say, "Man, Boyce, dang, Boyce, you just being a wet blanket, man. You just a hater, Boyce." Well, let me just tell you a little story. Let me just make it a little bit real for you, so you can kind of understand where I'm coming from, and that this is not coming from a place of haterology. This is coming from a place of actual love for black people. Let me show y'all a picture right here. See this little girl? This little girl, she's standing next to her uncle. And the little girl is Elishama Wright. Now, let me read about the story about Elishama Wright, uh, who is a 15-year-old girl in Chicago. And her father is a firefighter. Her father is her uncle. Her uncle's name was Timothy Eland. And I'm gonna read here from the Chicago Sun-Times. Elishama Wright was leaving her nephew's. Sorry. Oh wait. So Elishama, Elishama Wright was leaving her nephew's surprise birthday party, joking and laughing with her brother as they stopped into the cool weekend night in West Fulham in Chicago. Wright thought she heard firecrackers in the distance while walking with her brother, her 15-year-old daughter tagging along somewhere in the crowd. So Elishama must be her mother. Sorry. The sounds grew louder and people started running and screaming. When I looked down, I saw my brother on the ground with blood squirting from his face, Wright told the Sun-Times. She ducked back into the building in 300 block East Kensington Avenue until the shooting stopped, then rushed outside to see about her brother and her daughter. Wright reached her brother, a Chicago firefighter, and felt for a pulse. It was faint. As she dialed 911, her daughter ran up, bleeding and crying. My daughter was yelling, "Mom." She had a lot of blood running down her arm. She said, "Mom, I'm tired of shootings." And then she collapsed. 4 other people were hit by gunfire, and one of them, a mother from Dalton, was shot and killed near Wright's daughter. My daughter watched her die. The attack Saturday night was the latest mass shooting in a year when Chicago is seeing its worst gun violence in decades and in a neighborhood that is near the top for both murders and shootings, according to police data. Police say the gunman emerged from a dark gangway and opened fire around 9:30 p.m. and ran off. So here's where I'm going with this. Here's where I'm going. I really, I'm with you on the Ahmaud Arbery case. I swear to God, I'm with you. It's messed up, man. R.I.P. to Ahmaud. This makes me really sad. But let's just keep it 100. Ahmaud Arbery is one dude. This is one case. This is symbolism. Let me show you what the numbers look like. You look at Chicago. This is back in May. This is just for the month of May. One person, compare 1 to 68, 56. Look at these numbers. Look at these numbers. The numbers of kids in Chicago who died from COVID, the total number of kids who died nationwide from the pandemic in 2021 is 214. The number of children shot in Chicago alone is 261. Now I want you to compare 261 to 1. And what I'm asking, and honestly, I hope I can ask this and still be loved. I really do. I hope intelligent black people will at least get what I'm saying, because don't nobody else understand where the fuck I'm coming from. But I'm trying to understand how I'm supposed to be emotional about Ahmaud Arbery only, and then forget about the hundreds and hundreds of children being murdered in Chicago on a regular basis. Hundreds of children being murdered in Philadelphia on a regular basis. Hundreds of children being shot down in Houston and Dallas and all these cities all across the country. I just really have to understand this. Now I know some people gonna come in, they're gonna be like, "Man, you just hating, dog. You just hating." Well, just take your dumb ass out of my chat, man. No, seriously, go sit. I'm sure Al Sharpton has room on his podcast to sit there and listen to you engage in this hamster on a wheel nigrotry, where you're getting riled up over one case at a time, over one situation. So white boys down south, they shot a black man, and we all, this is terrible. Black lives matter. But if black lives matter to you, then you would want to save black life. Am I correct? I mean, if black lives matter to you, wouldn't that not mean that you would identify the areas in which the most black people are being killed and go confront that issue? I mean, seriously, tell me, yes or no? Yes or no? Really, I need somebody to confirm that this is that logic is still okay, that it's okay to still be logical in a world where Negroidian emotionality runs the day, where literally you scream and holler, you kick and scream, you have protests and rallies and prayer vigils because something happened with a white person, but you have nothing to say when 1,000 children are murdered by black people. Like, I don't get it. I just don't understand. It doesn't add up to me. It does not compute. But then again, maybe that's why your community has not achieved anything in the last 40 years. Maybe this is why your civil rights superstars haven't done anything to improve the lives of black people. Maybe that's why you have cases. These cases are entertainment, y'all. That's what they are. They're just entertainment. They just occupy your mind and get you all riled up. Seriously, I'm not saying these hillbillies that took down Arbery shouldn't go to jail. They put them under the jail. I don't give a shit. I just need to understand. I need to ask you this question. Answer me in the chat. I need you to answer me in the chat. In what areas will black people's lives be improved now that these guys are in jail? Tell me, how will the lives of millions of black people get better because these three hillbillies, these three toothless rednecks from Georgia are going to jail? Seriously. Because let me just tell you like this. Look, straight up, let's just be honest. If Ahmaud Arbery had been killed by a black man, y'all wouldn't even be talking about it. Am I right or am I right? If Ahmaud Arbery had been shot by the same dudes who killed young Dolph, let's switch it up. If young Dolph had been killed by a white man, Ben Crump would have been there ready to, well, do you know that Jesus is said in that we got to get justice for the people and the justice is right? If young Dolph had been killed by a white man, Ben Crump would have been on the scene like a damn firefighter. He like the ambulance chaser that he is. Just be honest. Just keep it honest. I'm not dogging, but y'all know me. I can't hold back truth. I gotta tell you the truth. If young Dolph had been killed by a white man, Ben Crump would have been on the scene like 9/11, like the Popos. He'd have been on the scene ready to crack the case, like Nancy Drew. But because young Dolph was killed by black people, it's like, black people kill black people all the time. It ain't nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. Vice versa. If Ahmaud Arbery had been killed by a black man, do you think, give me a yes or no, give me a yes or no to this question. If Ahmaud Arbery had been killed by a black man, like all those hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children in Chicago that are killed every year that you don't pay attention to, if Ahmaud Arbery had been killed by a black man, would that case have been in the national media? Yes or no? Give me a yes or no. And if you say yes, you're lying. If you say yes, you're too stupid to even be in this space. I'm not saying that you have to agree with everything I'm saying here, but you got to at least try to you got to at least be open-minded to say, maybe he's on to something. Maybe there's a point here. So what is the point? Here's what I'm saying to you. Here's the problem with your civil rights superstars. The problem with your civil rights superstars is they're not black leaders. What they are is they are Negro managers. They're Negro managers. And the way they manage you is the same way my sister-in-law manages my niece and nephew. My niece and nephew are the cutest children ever. August is 8 months old. Amina is 3. So the way my sister-in-law manages her 3-year-old and her 8-month-old is when they get all riled up and they have a lot of energy. What do you do with babies when they have a lot of energy? You have them run around in a circle until they get tired, and then eventually they just fall asleep on the floor. Right? You say, oh, well, let's let them go out and play. Let them run around in the yard. Or let's give them something to get excited about. Let's put something on TV to distract them and tell them to run around the table so the baby will get real tired and then the baby will go to sleep. Well, that's how she manages my niece and nephew. Well, they manage black people the same way. Black people have legitimate issues. Black people get upset about things. We have things that we're upset about. We're like, wait, we've been asking for reparations. You won't even say the word reparations. Our black businesses are struggling because you won't loan the money. You have a mass incarceration system that has locked up all the fathers so that now we think black fatherhood is out of style, or that you old fashioned if you think a child deserves a mother and a father. Like, you totally messed us up. You're putting all kinds of crazy crap in our food till people are dying on a regular basis, but yet you somehow convince us that we can get as obese as we want to get, eat as much poison as we want, and then we're going to be saved by a jab that came from Pfizer or Moderna, right? The Pfizer Moderna jab will cleanse all sins, right? So you're doing all these things to us, and we're concerned about that. But then what they do is they throw up something that represents symbolism, and then they get you riled up, And just like the little babies, you scream and holler, jump up and down. They give you something to do. You go out and you have protests and rallies and prayer vigils, and you say, "Oh my God, because of Ahmaud Arbery case, I'm afraid to let my son leave the house." Well, you know what? I'm sorry, but there's a whole lot of mothers in Southside Chicago who have the same fear of letting their sons leave the house. And guess what? The fear is real. What's more probable? That your son's gonna run into three toothless hillbillies in a small town in Georgia, or that your son's gonna run to some thug motherfucker who been listening to music that's convinced him that he ain't nothing but a gangster and a killer, and that he's supposed to take down black people at every available opportunity? Which one is more likely to kill your son? Because I know a lot of black people who've been killed. I know quite a few black people who've been killed. I know quite a few black people who've been killed. Not one of those people has ever been killed by a cop. Not one of those people has ever been killed by even a white man. Most of the black people I know who've been killed have been killed by people that look like us. So I'm not trying to say that these toothless hillbillies that killed Ahmaud Arbery are good people. I'm not here to let them off the hook. Send them to jail, put them under the jail. I don't care. But if you are protesting over Ahmaud Arbery and not protesting over all the thousands of children dying in Chicago, the thousands of children dying in Philadelphia, the thousands of children dying in New York, the thousands of black children dying in Houston, if you're not protesting that as much as you're protesting the Ben Crump case of the week, then that's why you're making no progress. You will accomplish absolutely nothing for the black community. You will simply be just like the little 3-year-old who screams and hollers until he gets sleepy, and then he goes to sleep. And a lot of our people are lulled right back to sleep by these cases. I can't. I've been getting asked about the Ahmaud Arbery case all week long, and I literally have no comment because I do not know that situation. I assume that in the court of law, all the facts were presented, and the jury went back and forth, and the jury decided that these toothless rednecks were in the wrong to go chase down Arbery. But there's nothing about that case that makes me say, "Oh yeah, this is it. This is the situations like this are the reason black people can't get ahead. Situations like this are the reason black people are dying. Situations like this are that's what's plaguing our community." No, but understand this: every time a politician gets in front of you, they're going to start bringing up these cases, and they bring them up for a specific reason. They say, if I can keep black people focused on the symbolism, then I can make sure that they never, ever focus on the substance. So they will starve you of substance, but suffocate you with symbolism. They will strangle and suffocate you with symbolism and starve you of substance. That's why you can't get your reparations. That's why you can't get nothing, no money for your black owned businesses, and you got to keep going to work for white people. That's why they got you convinced that you got to go get this jab in order to keep your job, because you ain't got enough economic independence to give them the middle finger. That's why they still are dropping poison in your food. They're doing everything in the world to kill you. But then every time you realize that all the people around you are dying, they'll say, no, 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 but look over here, look over here, look over here. So this is where I'm going with this. And here's the thing: when people hear me say this, people who can't compartmentalize and can't understand nuances, they think somehow that I have an issue with Ahmaud Arbery, or that I'm being insensitive. And maybe it seems like I am, but actually I'm not being insensitive. I'm actually being overly sensitive. I am hypersensitive because when I look at Ahmaud Arbery's case, I see one unfortunate situation that happened in one town in Georgia involving one black man. When I look around and I look at what's really killing black people, I look at the numbers. I look at hundreds and hundreds of children, hundreds. When you compare one to hundreds, the hundreds have to win. If the one wins over the hundreds, then you must ask yourself, who taught you that one situation, one case was more important than 1,000 cases? Who told you that? Who told you that? Who made you think that? Well, it was white supremacy. It was a white supremacist media. Believe me, if white media was as focused on all the hundreds of children being shot in Chicago as they are on the Ben Crump case of the week, that's going to get Ben and his people paid, right? It's going to get Al Sharpton another check, right? Believe me, I get that. I totally get where you're coming from. I totally get where you're coming from. I worked with Sharpton. I worked with Sharpton on a case in 2009. We went out to two cases actually. One, we went out to help what's the sister's name? The sister's name, Kelly Williams Bolar, out of Ohio, who was a mother who was accused of a crime because she sent her children to a school outside their district. We went, Sharpton and I, in 2009, went to Ohio and held a rally on her behalf. There was another case, a sister out in, her name escapes me right now, but it was in Missouri. There was a young college student who got arrested and was facing 15 years in prison after she cut in line at a Walmart. So I've done that. I've done the case by case approach to civil rights. The reason I transitioned out of that, and the reason you don't see me doing things with Sharpton anymore, is because when I was in that space, I felt like it was a waste of my time. When I was in that space, I said, this is not really going to move the needle forward for Black people. And when I was in that space, I noticed, I agree, I will submit, I think Al Sharpton is one of the smartest people I have ever met. I have never met a man who can remember that many people's names and keep up with that many relationships. He's absolutely masterful at that. I give him complete credit with that. But I remember sitting there thinking that this is why Black people don't move forward, because we work real hard at things that don't amount to nothing. Like literally, the work of most of our civil rights superstars is tantamount to asking your child to spend 87,000 hours counting every single crack in the ceiling and memorizing its location. It's gonna be hard to do. It's gonna be hard to do. But the question you must ask is, did it actually accomplish anything meaningful as a result of that, other than making your child very tired? Right? So the reality is that a lot of your so-called racial justice in America is nothing more than a made-for-TV, like, what do they call it, reality show. It's nothing but a big reality show where every week there's a new episode. The new episode is which Black man got killed by some white guy somewhere in America this week. Right? You don't know nothing about what happened. All you know is that the perpetrator is white and the victim is Black. That is what determines whether or not Ben Crump is on the scene. If a Black man gets killed by a Black man, Ben Crump got something else to do. But if a Black man gets killed by a white guy, then it's like, oh, it must be race. There's no chance that these two guys had a pre-existing beef with each other. There's no chance that there are other circumstances going on outside of race. No chance of that, because that does not fit the narrative. That does not make well for a TV reality series, right? That is not what's going to get you paid. So ultimately, what the things that get Ben Crump paid are very different from the things that get Black America moving forward. The things that get Al Sharpton on TV are very different from the things that are actually going to allow Black people to live a better life. So if you talk about quality of life, I'm going to go back to Chicago, which some parts of Chicago, I talk about Chicago because that's my city. I love my people in my city, but I also love my people that when I go chop it up with you guys in Philadelphia, Philly's like a second home. When I go to Houston, I'm connected with the people in Houston. In the Fifth Ward, one of my best buddies, Willie D, and some other people live down there, right? When I go to LA and South Central and I see the devastation there, I connect to that. When I go to Oakland, all these cities across the country, and what I'm seeing there is I see scenarios where quality of life of the typical Black family is significantly impacted by things that shouldn't be there. And I see that quality of life almost like a polluted environment where they have, again, this is where your white supremacy is creeping into your life, where they have come in and insidiously poisoned on a systematic level the experience of Black people, to the point where your families are dismantled, your people don't feel safe, your children are not being educated. The music has turned so many of them into wannabe thugs, and the wannabe thugs turn on this music. They smoke that weed. Then they get in the car. They do a drive-by and they shoot up the whole damn house. Grandma got a bullet in her head, and then the other grandmas in the neighborhood are scared to death because they think that they might be next. Right? This is what I'm seeing on a systematic level. Remember, you got to understand this about racism. If you're ever going to fight racism, here's what you got to understand. Racism is about a system. It is about a system. Can we agree on that? And the thing about a system is that you can only fight a system with a system. You cannot fight a system with a bunch of individual cases. You cannot fight a system with a couple of civil rights superstars. So if you want to talk about the Ahmaud Arbery case, I want to hear you talk about it from a systematic fashion. Maybe perhaps from a systematic perspective, you can say this is beneficial because now white people will get punished when the victim is black. I get that, right? Or systematically, when a police officer gets convicted, that's good because you're challenging the criminal justice system in its entirety, the police system in its entirety, to a point where systematically they're going to maybe perhaps implement changes and regulations that will keep people safe from the tyranny of police. I get that. But remember that in many of these cases, your civil rights superstars, they don't go into systematic remedies for anything. They don't get any legislation passed that changes any laws. They don't do anything that affects the lifestyle or the experience or the quality of life of millions of black people. They get you caught up in the one-off emotionality. They start telling you that Ahmaud Arbery was a great guy and that George Floyd was a wonderful person and a great dad. They get you caught in the story because media sells stories. Media can't sell a systematic issue because systems are not interesting, but systems are what's killing you. What's killing you is the hundreds of thousands. Again, compare one to hundreds of thousands. The hundreds of thousands of people that die every year from cancer, heart disease, strokes, and diabetes because they are systematically poisoning your food, right? Or the thousands of you out here that are listening right now who have been affected by the mass incarceration system implemented by Joe Biden and Bill Clinton. That is something that occurred because they systematically spent $10 billion putting 100,000 cops on the street and building more penitentiaries so they could lock up as many black people, particularly black men, as they possibly could. Your quality of life is also affected by the fact that systematically, most of you have known the extreme discomfort of working for a white man who hates your guts, right? Because systematically, they put trillions of dollars into developing a white-owned economic system where they train you to want to grow up and work for white people, right? So systematically, I could keep going. I could literally keep doing this all day. I could keep doing this all day. And the reason that progress isn't being made is because most of your civil rights superstars, who I encourage you to ignore at every available opportunity. I'm sorry, I can't sit next to some of these guys because they're a joke to me. I told you, Al Sharpton's a brilliant man. He's a brilliant man, but he ain't no leader to me. He's a smart guy that knows how to get into American politics. And politicians can kiss my whole entire black ass because most of them don't accomplish shit. Most of them don't put black people on the priority list. Most of them put black people on the back burner. Most of them, you could show them images of black families and little babies being shot and tell them hundreds of kids died in Chicago. And all they'll talk about is, well, did you hear about that one case that happened in Georgia or that one case that happened in New York? I don't want to hear about the one case that happened in New York. I want to hear about the 3,000 cases that have occurred nationwide of little black children dying who don't get your attention because you've been distracted by the big shiny story on TV. So this is where I'm coming from with this. I'm not here to say that you don't have a reason to get caught up in the story of Ahmaud Arbery, but it's kind of like it's really no different from you telling me about your favorite movie. You don't know this man. You don't know these people. You don't know nothing about that situation. You weren't there when it happened. You just know what you speculate on, and that's all. All that is a speculation. Now, at the end of the day, the jury made a decision. The hillbillies are going to go to jail. I think that's perfectly fine. I will not lose any sleep over that. And I'm not in any way saying that they should be found not guilty at all. But what I am saying is that it's one basic point. I want you to process this. If Ahmaud Arbery had been killed by a black man, you never would have heard his name. His case never would have got your attention because it never would have been on TV. But if young Dolph had been killed by a white man, it'd have been all over the news. They'd be having protests. Ben Crump will be there ready to get his check. Al Sharpton will be there making it into a civil rights issue. And that's your problem. These people are playing you. They are literally engaged in massive emotional manipulation designed to distract black people to keep you from improving your life. At the end of the day, man, you know what I want from you? I want you to keep your children safe. I want you to protect your children from all things that exist that are there to poison them or to harm them. That means you got sons of bitches out here in your own damn neighborhood that look just like you, who will rape your daughter in a minute, who will shoot your son in the head and think nothing of it. You got school systems out here that will poison your children and have them turning into little Klansmen by the age of 6, where they don't care about blackness anymore because they're trying to be white. You have you have all kinds of people out here that are trying to harm you and exploit you. So be smarter than that. Don't just get caught up in these situations. There's nothing about this case that on any level, in my view, the outcome of this case will do nothing to change the lives and the realities of black people. You know what's going to happen? There's going to be another case just like it that's going to pop up in the next 2 weeks. These people make their money by highlighting individual cases and individual stories. And I don't just say this as a person who's just sort of been observing this. I say this as a person who's been up close. I've been right there in the middle of these cases, and I see how the cases are seen as cash cows for the civil rights superstars. In fact, I remember one time, I'll tell this story and then I'm going to go. There's a time where I sat down with a prominent civil rights person. I'm not going to say the person's name because I'm not trying to start no beefs. And this person got mad because the case that we had worked on at the time, this was many years ago when I thought these individual cases actually made a difference. Now I don't believe that they do. I'm completely convinced that they don't. Um, and he was mad because I mentioned it on somebody else's radio show. And I said, yeah, well, isn't it, all that matters is that the people hear about it, that we share the story, right? And he said, no. He said, no, I put money into this case. I invested in this case. So you should have broke it on my show, not his show. And literally that's what it is. These cases are cash cows. These are just assets. These are things that they can use to make money, to get on TV, to remain relevant. And they're going to keep doing it. They're not going to listen to me. They're not going to stop because I said this. What I'm doing is I'm making an appeal to any intelligent person out here who really wants to make progress, to stop paying attention to the nonsense. Let go of the symbolism. Focus on the substance. Let's focus on the substance. Okay, that's my 2 cents. And I hope I didn't sound too mean. I probably sounded a little bit like harsh. I'm sure I hurt some people's feelings, and I don't mean to hurt your feelings. I promise you I don't. And I'm not here to say that I'm 100% right about everything. But what I am here to say is that you can't talk about Ahmaud Arbery if you ain't gonna talk about those hundreds and hundreds of children that get shot in Chicago every year. If you only talk about the cases that white people put on TV, but you can't talk about the cases that are happening to black people all over this country, then that might mean you're a white supremacist. So I hope there are no white supremacists in the building. If that's how you think, then you may want to leave. So anyway, guys, I'm out of here. Hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. If you'd like to learn more about some of the stuff we have going on the Black Business School, go to boycewatkins.com. That's my website right there on the chat. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Have a good day. Love you. See you soon. Peace.